It had been a busy morning. The pups had made mud pies, danced under the sprinkler, and watered the thirsty flower beds. Just as they were heading for the sandbox, the alarm bell rang. The pups jumped into action. The emergency was on the corner of Flea Market and Canine Crescent. Louisa, the ladybug, was terribly upset, and so was Bilko. He was in the middle of painting a huge picture of bright red poppies and orange tiger lilies. He was about to add some more red to the painting when he found the tiniest footprints on it. They traveled into the large red poppy in the center. It was Louisa's youngest child, Speck, who thought Bilko's poppy was a real flower. He had landed in the wet paint, and as it dried, he became stuck to the painting. When the pups arrived, they could see it wasn't going to be easy to rescue Speck. No one, not even Louisa, could find him in the painting. He was the same color as Bilko's flowers. The pups talked together as Louisa flew back and forth between them. Bilko washed off his brushes. Then Smudge had a wonderful idea. He searched in the emergency kit and found a magnifying glass. This would solve the problem. As the pups and Louisa scanned the painting, Speck called out for his mom. When they got close to the big red poppy in the middle, they found him stuck in the red paint. I have to say, Speck was awfully surprised to see such a huge eyeball looking at him. And Smudge was surprised to see Speck looking so big. The pups raced for my hose, and Bilko almost fainted when they held it up to his painting. But only the tiniest drop of water came out. It was just enough to soften the paint, and with that, Speck was free. Louisa told Speck if he'd stay in line with his brothers and sisters, it would be certainly easier to keep track of him. As she lifted off, her 7 other children, who were waiting on a nearby leaf, followed, and they all flew back home. With a sigh, Bilko went back to enjoying his painting. On the way back to the station, Dilly and Tanker decided it was the perfect day to play in the sandbox. They would build a huge castle, dig a moat, and fill it with water. As soon as I stopped and it was safe, they jumped off and raced for the sandbox. Tanker found the shovels and pails. Dilly hauled a few buckets of water over, and soon the sand became firm and damp. It wasn't long before the packing and dumping and digging started to take shape. Tanker made an extraordinary tower, and he even built a walkway around the top. It looked great. Dilly was having a little trouble. Every time she turned the pail over and gave it a good smack, the tower would come out, but then sink and fall. She tried 3 times. Tanker would have helped her, but he was busy holding up the side of the great castle wall as he added more sand. Dilly thought maybe she'd try building the moat, so she dug a long trench around the castle wall and filled it with water. In a second, Tanker's beautiful wall collapsed. Dilly felt bad, but Tanker told her it was no problem, and he set about building it up again. Then he dug the moat and added water. Everything held together beautifully. Dilly sat in the corner of the sandbox and watched as Tanker created the huge castle. She wished that she could make one as well as he did, but Dilly felt that she just wasn't very good at it. Tanker looked over at her and asked her to help. And she did try. She used a small cup to make the top, but it tumbled down the other side. Tanker noticed and quickly moved over to help her. As she watched Tanker move the sand and make it stay, Dilly realized something. He was really good at it. Actually, really, really good at it. And then she realized something else. She wasn't good at it at all. Nothing she tried to do had worked. She sat in the corner of the sandbox and watched Tanker. She noticed how he held his hand there and waited for the sand to stick. She noticed how he tapped the buckets just the right way to make the sand hold its shape. She noticed how, when he dug, the walls didn't collapse. She also noticed she was too busy watching Tanker to feel sad. It was at this moment that Dilly realized something wonderful. She was very impressed with Tanker's castle-building ability. Her friend Tanker was amazing. He was fabulous. And right then and there, excitement rose in Dilly. She realized she couldn't build like Tanker, but could be the one to bring all their friends over to admire his wonderful work. She told him she'd be right back and shot out of the sandbox. Inside, she found Smudge and Bilko playing Go Fish, and she asked them to come out and look at Tanker's castle. In the kitchen, Farah and Angora were having a snack together. She told them to come on and see too. Then she leaned out of the window and asked me to have a look as well. And I can tell you, when I saw Tanker's castle, I almost honked my horn. I was so impressed. Tanker stood back so we could admire it. We all pointed out what a wonderful job they had done. And it was at this moment that Dilly made me the proudest of all. She said, Tanker built it all by himself. Isn't he wonderful? And with that, she gave him a great big hug. Tanker was happy his friends liked his work. Later, I took pictures of them all standing around the wonderful castle. That night, I told Dilly I was happy she didn't feel sad about not being good at sandcastles. And I was delighted that she honestly thrilled at her friend's great sandcastle ability. And do you know, if one day you aren't very good at something, I hope you will remember Dilly and celebrate what your friend can do well.
Here's some things that are fun to do. Fun for the friends who play with you. Fun for a bunch, or just for two. Fun for me, and fun for you. Like washing Pumper. Cars and trucks like to stay clean and shiny. A little soap and water does the job. Just watch out where you point that hose.